What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin Cash today. It is the 13th day of November, and here we are at about $520. We've got 8 hours and 34 minutes left in the day. Shout out to the Dragon Riders and the House of the Dragon, baby. Everybody's talking about Bitcoin Cash. I'm actually seeing a lot of traffic on X.com talking about Bitcoin Cash. We could actually talk about that first. Hit the like button, subscribe, and let's get into it. BCH one, talking about this, talking about Wiz. Yeah, Wiz Capital has acquired some BCH. Used to follow BTC in the early days. It never really followed BTC in the early days, to be fair. Chart versus BTC looks like it's about to break out at any time. Yes, this is exactly what we're saying, man. Yes, absolutely. And Wiz Capital, for those of you guys that don't know, he's got about 812,000 followers, and he's not the only one, right? Making posts like this too. There is a top 30 coin that no one pays attention to. Chart versus BTC looks insane, and it really does. It really does. I agree with Wiz Capital here because BCH, BTC, and this is one of the things that we've talked about for years, literally for years, dating back to 2023, right? Like it's 2025 now, dating back to 2023. BCH, BTC, we look at it on a monthly time frame, and you can see it's undeniable that there is a shift in momentum. Now, of course, this chart sucks. of course it does. We've got lower highs and lower lows. It's not. You don't want to invest in anything that looks like this necessarily from this point. But down here, this is when accumulation starts to happen, and you can actually see it. This is what's called a rounded bottom or a frying pan or a what else do they call it? Rounded bottom, frying pan, saucer patterns. Right? Look up what is a frying pan pattern, what is a saucer pattern, what does it mean? It means long-term massive accumulation, right? Accumulation. And this is the BCH BTC chart. That means that there's a long-term mass amount of accumulation of Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin, not just versus the dollar, versus Bitcoin, right? Reflected in the dollar, this is what that looks like, right? This little shift in momentum, that's what it looks like. It's up. But versus Bitcoin, it's this slow curve, right? And whenever you get this, typically you do get a very sizable retrace, right? This guy knows what he's talking about. He genuinely knows what he's talking about, because the reason why it looks insane, this chart looks insane, is because we haven't had a notable sizable retrace at all. Like this, yes, these pops here, they were nice. They're actually really nice. But if we take the all-time high to the all-time low in consideration, we have not gotten above the 382, the golden ratio, any of this. And if we take it back to any of these moments, right, from this low here, you barely got to the 236, barely, right there. Barely got above the 236 there. Any notable retracement at least goes above the 382, okay, which is significant. Think about it like this, right? A move like this, when's the last time we saw a move that big, right? It's been multiple cycles. It's been since Bitcoin Cash's inception that we've seen a move that was this big. And corresponding to this move over here versus Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash did something like this, okay? From a low to a high in the course of 2 months from this low. 2 months later, you're up 14x. 14.5x. In the world that we live in now, where Zcash and Dash are both seeing 8x moves in a month, more than that for Zcash, right, over the past 2 months. Crazy stuff, right? Bitcoin Cash is very likely to see something on the lines of a 7x move or more from its current price. We're at $520 now. If you're blessed, if you're lucky enough to see Bitcoin Cash below $500, take that opportunity while you can. $3,700 right now, or $3,700 to $4,300 is the price target. Is the price target by the end of this year, right? A couple of months. It's still the middle of November, so a month and a half goes by. Maybe in January we're up at $4,000. I don't know, but we're at 519 now. Bitcoin Cash has to be one of the safest OG coin plays to make right now, because again, beyond all this new attention that it's getting, and it's increasing daily, because more and more people are becoming aware. People who hate Bitcoin Cash, who have never talked about it before or openly talked about it, they can't hate right now, because if you look at this chart, in a realm of crypto, we're in this world of crypto right now where everything's down, everything sucks, you're looking for an avenue to make money. It's so obvious. It is so obvious. This is a perfect setup. This is the kind of setup, you guys. I've been doing technical analysis now for over 10 years. This is the kind of setup that comes like once in a cycle. Not for Bitcoin Cash. I'm talking about for anything. Like, you're lucky to find a setup like this, as golden as this, let alone if you bought earlier like we did. I didn't buy actually down here. We literally bought the lows of this wick here, and we've DCA'd in here and there. Most recent purchase that we made was I want to say at 500, or maybe it was just above. It was like $508. That was the most recent purchase. But we DCA, and when this thing rallies, man, again, you might find turbulence along the way at various places. Of course, you will. But ultimately, by the end of this year, if not sometime in January, we should be around $4,000. That's the absolute expectation. And again, there's all these bullish things. What I love is you got this guy who's got a very big account, and he's not the only one. Okay, there's actually a lot of other accounts talking about this too, that are fairly big accounts. But this is the largest account I've seen talk about it. 800,000 followers. Not only do we have the BCH BTC chart, right? Because that's what he's talking about. And this is a big deal. This is actually a really big deal if you're a crypto investor. It's a very big deal to have this kind of shift in momentum. It really is. You might look at this and be like, it's lower lows and lower highs. What's so exciting about it? But yes, if you connect the dots here, if you connect your lows, you connect your lower lows, you'll see that the momentum here is shifting. Do you notice how it's slowly sloping to zero, right? We're getting a neutral slope. That is positive as hell structure, right? You're going to get a retracement overall that takes us likely by the end of this cycle, I think, to the golden ratio. Bitcoin Cash, I shouldn't say likely, has a chance to go to the golden ratio, if not something that is worth 3% or more of a Bitcoin, right? 3% or more, 1% or more of a Bitcoin, right? And I mean, if we're going to $4,000 by the end of the year, Bitcoin's going to be around 200K. What would that then be? That'd be like 2%. We probably see the 382. Yeah, we probably get a nice initial pop to the 382 by the end of this year. That makes sense to me. Anyways, beyond just this chart being absurdly bullish, or at least having bullish implications, okay? Bullish divergence and all that on the monthly time frame. Beyond that, we've got the BCH USD chart, which again is resting right on top of this lifelong historical downtrend line right here. Breaking out, you've broken out, but you haven't seen the breakout move yet. This is literally months and months of opportunity to just acquire and accumulate. That's what that is right there. Beyond this very bullish chart and the US dollar bullish chart, we also have another bullish indicator, which is insanely awesome, is the exponential moving average ribbon, the EMA ribbon. On the monthly time frame, we've actually gotten this to cross, and as you guys know, in crypto, it's actually very difficult once a monthly ribbon is crossed to the downside. It's very difficult to see it cross back up. Most cryptos don't cross back up after they've crossed down. The fact that you've crossed up here, you've back tested the ribbon for support. You guys, we right now, where we are here, is like the equivalent of like right here, right? Where we crossed below the ribbon's kind of contracted, it hasn't expanded yet, but then boom, we expanded. Look at the move that transpired from there. I theorize, right, and this took about 3 months really to transpire, but let's just say 4 months overall to that low. I theorize that the move that we're going to get is bigger than this. We're going to see a similar move to this, but it's going to be bigger than this, and that likely will, again, take us above $2,000, if not all the way up. My expectation is that this move takes us to somewhere around $4,000, give or take $300 in either direction, $3,700, $4,300, somewhere in that range, by the end of this year, 2025, if not sometime in 2026. Bitcoin Cash, you guys, is being put on the map. And if you go on x.com right now, I promise you're going to see that there are a lot of people talking about it, more than we've ever seen before. What's crazy is there's people talking about it now just for the setup. What happens when we pump? What happens whenever we're looking like we're going to take out our all-time highs, right? Right. Zcash's perspective went from dead project, nobody cares about you, to up here, everybody's like, oh my God, Zcash might be the real Bitcoin. People are literally saying that. Zcash might be better than Bitcoin. It might be the real Bitcoin. This might be exactly what Satoshi planned all along. Wait till they find out about Bitcoin Cash. Zcash is not even at new all-time highs. Bitcoin Cash is on a path that will take it to new all-time highs. What happens then? And then also Bitcoin Cash, amidst all the mania of this massive pump, will be at a larger market cap than Zcash. All this propaganda about Zcash being the real Bitcoin, or that BS, if you guys hear that, it's going to be put to Bitcoin Cash, and that will actually be digestible. That will actually be, with Zcash, people hear that and they're like, yeah, but it's not the real Bitcoin. Like we've heard this before. With Bitcoin Cash, which is literally a hard fork of BTC, it literally shares the same Genesis block that Bitcoin does. It's as in whenever Bitcoin started, they were the same. Bitcoin Cash and Bitcoin. It's not that Bitcoin kept going and then Bitcoin Cash veered off. They were the same and they both veered off, right? They're equals to each other, just not in price. But whenever people see that, and definitely not in fundamentals either, Bitcoin Cash is the better Bitcoin. It's absolutely undeniable that it is. But the theory was for a long time there can't be two, right? There's only going to be one Bitcoin. And this was the verdict that Bitcoin Cash was not that Bitcoin. But the reality is, as time's gone on, Bitcoin shifted away from peer-to-peer electronic cash and became store of value. It's a store of value coin. One of the biggest uh, sponsors, promoters of Bitcoin, Michael Saylor, all these new investors in crypto this cycle, they've heard his speech, and all he talks about is how it's a perfect store of value. And all the devs, they want it to be a store of value. Maybe not all of them. Some of them are starting to see the light now. Jack Dorsey said himself, even not that he's a dev, I don't think he is for Bitcoin. Jack Dorsey himself even said that if Bitcoin becomes a store of value, it has failed as a project. If it becomes a store of value, that doesn't mean Bitcoin will go to zero. It just means it fails as a project, right? The project was peer-to-peer electronic cash. You have store of value coin. You have peer-to-peer electronic cash coin that adheres to Satoshi's actual white paper, right? When people when people are waking up right now because of the chart, because of the setup, okay? Whenever everybody thinks that fundamentals, that little gimmicks, little things like this and that are what you need to gain attention. High staking yield, whatever it might be, right? Fancy little gimmicks and stuff like that. That's not it. What you need for attention is not setups, but it's results, right? Bitcoin Cash, unfortunately, will have more attention here than it does here. And it's getting a lot of attention right now from people who know what they're talking about, okay? Whenever it gets this attention up here, people are going to start to do research. They're going to start to look into it. Why did it pump so much? Why is Bitcoin Cash pumping? I thought this was a scam. Every YouTuber that I've asked about this coin, like Carl from the Moon, like DaVinci Jeremy, like MM Crypto, like Ivan on Tech, like Crypto Lark, like BitBoy, like what is it? The guys that stole BitBoy's channel, the Snake Lounge, whatever they're called, like Crypto Rand, Crypto Banter. I'm dropping a lot of names like Martini Guy. No offense to all of you, but where have you been with Bitcoin Cash, right? None of them. They've all said, and I'm naming off all these accounts because these are some of the bigger YouTubers in the space, and they've all said that Bitcoin Cash was a scam, that it was a failed Bitcoin. When people ask about Bitcoin Cash, I'll literally be in their live streams and I'll hear them say, "Yeah, it's a scam," or it's the fake Bitcoin, it's a wannabe. They'll say things like that, right? Whenever Bitcoin Cash is up here, people are going to start to not look to those people for advice. So who are they going to look to? They're going to look to the Bitcoin Cash faithful, the people who know what they're talking about whenever it comes to this. I'm not saying that people who invest in Bitcoin Cash know more than any of those other people that I name dropped. I'm not saying that. That's not at all what I'm saying. I want to be very clear. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying when it comes to Bitcoin Cash, clearly we do. Clearly we do. Any of the Dragon Riders out there, we know. And people are going to look to us for information. They're going to see the real thing, and they might not even look to us, but they might start to do their own research. The reality of what I'm trying to say is when the price gets up here, it's not going to be the excitement of what Bitcoin Cash has as far as price growth potential has, right? That's not what's going to attract people. What's going to attract people is the narrative. The narrative that every person investing in Bitcoin Cash throughout this whole time has believed in since the start is that Bitcoin Cash is the better Bitcoin. There's going to be a lot of attention on that. There's going to be a lot of people who are doing their research, doing their diligence, looking for facts to contest that. And guys, that kind of attention, if it comes to light in the way that I think it will, I genuinely believe we could see a $23,000 or higher price for Bitcoin Cash by the end of the cycle. Absolutely. Which isn't crazy. It isn't crazy. You might be looking at that and be like, what are you talking about? It's at $520. 25K is crazy. It's like a 40x, 50x. That's nice. 100x would be crazy. Multi 100x would be crazy. And the reality is 100x is all the way up at 53K. Is it possible that Bitcoin Cash could be at 53K by the end of the cycle? I think it is. I think it is. But let's be blunt here, okay? If we want to see a $53,000 Bitcoin Cash by the end of this cycle, we'd probably need to be well above $4,300 by the end of January, okay? If we're above 10K or 13K by the end of January, yeah, we're probably going to 53K, probably. It's just a matter of time, you guys. And I don't believe we're going to 53K. I accept it as a possibility. I accept higher prices as a possibility, but I don't think we're going to get there. I think we do stop between 13 to 25K, personally, just above this level. It's very common not to stop at the 1414, but to wick just above it there. Okay, that's actually more common than it is to stop right at it. It's actually less common to do this. And with that, that's still spectacular growth. Like even just at 13K, that's still 25x, which is what we expect the average altcoin to do. And again, with everything we've said, I think we've really just built out a case as to why Bitcoin Cash will likely see more than a 13K price. And the only level after that is about 23K. We take the high to low from last cycle. I mean, seriously, the only level after that is 23K, you guys. I think Bitcoin Cash is going to break 23K this cycle. $519 now. Wild. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. $519 now. Let's just look and see real quick if on the short term if we do pull back. Because even though all those things we've said are true, it still does follow Bitcoin. It still does follow crypto as a whole. If crypto's taken a back seat, Bitcoin Cash probably takes a back seat as well, right? Let's just look at the daily indicators here. I mean, the stochastic suggests we go higher. The MACD suggests we go higher. So does the 1 hour time for the RSI. 4 hour looks bullish. 1 hour time frame does look a little bit bearish here. I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't expect that we go too much below $500 if we do. I highly doubt that we go below these lows. And relative to the average crypto, we are definitely holding up better in this range. We're actually holding up better than Bitcoin since the 10th of October, right? Bitcoin since the 10th of October looks like this, right? Here's the 10th of October. It's actually lower. It's got a lower trend like this. Bitcoin Cash since the 10th, it's actually got higher. You've got higher lows and higher highs. Look at the difference. Look at the difference. And then BCH BTC, of course, is getting ready to rally. The thing is, and the reason why people like Wiz Capital, is that what it is? No offense, I've actually never heard of this person before. Wiz, yeah. The reason why Wiz, shout out to Wiz, is bullish on the BTC BCH chart, BCH BTC chart, is probably for the same reasons that anybody in paying attention to Bitcoin Cash is that we all know that what's coming next is going to be a higher high. We haven't seen a higher high for Bitcoin Cash ever in its chart, ever. Here. Since 2017, we have not seen a higher high. When you shift the momentum versus the US dollar, that's great. We all have fun. That's phenomenal. When you shift the momentum versus Bitcoin versus BTC, the big money pays attention. People really pay attention to that. That's going to be a big. This is not going to be a small thing, guys. This is not going to be a one-off thing. It's something that's going to build and retrace overall. And just imagine Bitcoin BTC continues to grow. Maybe it'll be worth 500,000 by the end of the cycle. Maybe it'll be worth $1 million at one point, right? And it probably will, right? If Bitcoin Cash is worth the golden ratio, right? Let's just say the very base end of this golden ratio, 6.4%. 6.4% of $1 million is $64,000, right? It's just a matter of time. And then at that price, when Bitcoin Cash is at 64K, how many people are going to think, okay, it's a scam project then? Okay, this is a one-off. Okay, this thing's a failed. No. It's not a failed scam project at that point. At that point, it's something serious, right? 64K is like over $500 billion in price. I'm just saying, I don't know. At this point, actually, just with that thought in my head though, 53K, because are we going to get to 53K or higher this cycle? Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin would have to get up to this golden ratio zone. It would at least have to be worth 5. You'd have to be getting up to the golden ratio zone. If Bitcoin Cash got up to the golden ratio zone, it was worth 6.4%. And Bitcoin itself got to 500K this cycle. That's still not anywhere near enough to get BCH to 53K. So maybe 53K doesn't happen. Either that or BCH BTC is going to double, because I don't think Bitcoin will be worth $1 million by the end of the cycle. I think it'll be worth about 500K. I know I pulled a total like U-turn there and I stopped dead in my tracks, but the thought that I was on is that, you know, if Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin got here, which I don't know if it does by the end of the cycle, but if it does, that's great. But even if you get to this golden ratio zone by the end of the cycle, you're likely, Bitcoin would have to be just above 500K, and Bitcoin Cash would have to be all the way up here at about 10% to be worth 53K. So I think 53K is probably out of the question, but something around 20 to 30K is very possible. But again, just thinking prospectively in the future, Bitcoin Cash, I think, will see this. I think Bitcoin Cash will see new all-time highs versus Bitcoin. And if I'm wrong, then if I'm wrong at all about where I think it's going to be by the end of the cycle, Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin, we're likely only going to be higher. So if I'm wrong, it's only going to be because we're not bullish enough, not because we're not bearish enough. it's going to be because we're not bullish enough. So if I'm wrong, great. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope we do see a $50,000 price by the end of the cycle. But realistically, I think we're going to see something closer to about 20 to 25K, if not 13K at a minimum. But I digress. I'm repeating myself at this point. I don't have anything else to say. This video went on way longer than it needed to. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. If anybody's wondering, is it a good time to buy? Yeah, I think so. $518. But what if it drops? What if it does? Who cares? Let it drop to $490. Who cares? Buy. Right? It's a perfect time to buy, and it won't be like this for long. People are paying attention. People are paying attention. I'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.